action?
It usually means the players haven't quite understood what the guy is trying to achieve with them. I don't think it's never a popularity contest, and I think most of the players are well versed in the fact they may not like a coach but understand he's excellent in terms of technical knowledge or strategy. Yeah. When a guy gets the boot effectively so soon into a 3-year contract, I would have thought the playing staff and key senior personnel would have been consulted, I'd imagine, and in the absence of a huge defence, there's usually a tough decision made early on. I note the cynic in me notes that Willie Ruan described him as the perfect fit last year going into a 3-year contract.
Yeah.
But obviously most people who are going to make those decisions are going to describe their first choice as a perfect fit. But I think it's become apparent. I think the results do matter as well. I think they're kind of slightly glossing over why results aren't the most important thing. I think ultimately what he was trying to achieve on the field, he wasn't able to get that message across clearly to the playing group.
Yeah, Eddie, 6 wins in 20 before the weekend, so 7 in 21 for Kieran Keane. Your thoughts on his tenure and the type of rugby Connacht played, and then I presume, would you share Andy's viewpoint that when a coach is just one season into a 3-year tenure, that undoubtedly the senior players would have been consulted here and maybe the word back wasn't great?
Well, it's a bit of a shock that someone would leave after one season, because you'd like to feel that in this season he's kind of setting out his stall. Every coach likes to put their own, I suppose, mark or fingerprints on a team as to how they like them play. No two coaches are the same. They have different philosophies, different ways of communicating. And as Andy said there, it's not about being liked as a coach, it's being respected. And people may not think you're the guy they want a beer with, but they're prepared to carry out what you want on the field. And usually where this goes astray is when the players don't have the confidence to carry out in the field what's going on, and that's often a problem for coaches. Now, did this happen in Connacht? I don't know. But after a year, you would have thought that he would be still bedding in a bit, and for that reason, I think Andy wasn't far off the mark there. There's something not happy there, and it's often the players. And usually CEOs would say, "Look, just get on with it because you give this guy a chance." But for some reason, I'm a bit shocked, to be honest, to hear the news. I just heard it there when I came on air with you.
Yeah.
So it's something not fitting. And look, the other thing you have to say about Connacht is, look, Pat Lam achieved a lot with Connacht. I mean, winning their first trophy was huge. And I suppose if the expectation in around Connacht is huge now after that, success breeds expectation. And, people would not be as patient maybe with Kieran Keane. I mean, let's be honest, Pat Lam took some heat in his first season or two trying to get his house in order. But that's all forgotten when you win something. It's all like everything was always brilliant. It wasn't. I remember Pat Lam getting a tough enough time early doors, and they stuck with him. So I'm just surprised that Kieran Keane hasn't got the same maybe latitude to try and set out his stall. One season is very little, and for that reason there must be something seriously disconnected there that he would leave after 1 year.
Yeah, Andy, it does suggest a serious disconnect between a coach and his players. Was it obvious on the occasions you watched Connacht this year that it really wasn't working very, very badly, or was it still, from the outside looking in, within the parameters of what you might expect for a coach in his first year?
No, it wasn't obvious. I mean, I haven't seen their worst performances. I've seen some of their better ones.
Okay.
And I was quite an admirer of how I think they were trying to play and at times executing very well. They weren't always getting there, but similar to the Pat Lam era, it took a while to... I think there's a level of bravery required to play an expansive and attacking game, and there's a great responsibility on the players to implement that. It's a safer game and it's a more risk-averse game to play kind of lots of rucks, lots of pre-planned systems, and it's always easier for a coach to fall back on that and say, look, I've given you a rigid structure and a system, and if you don't execute, you're the fall guy. I think when a coach tries to be more expansive, he empowers players to make decisions. There is a shared responsibility in that case. So what I saw from Connacht actually, and I know it was a bit of a strange game. I think Leinster, for a couple of reasons that are hard to tell, just did not show up whatsoever. It's not like them at all. It was quite out of character on Saturday. But you could see there was an intensity in Connacht's game. It looked like there was a bit of joy in their game. They were throwing the ball around, but they weren't doing it with reckless abandon. So all those things were positives to me. Yeah. Looking at from the outset, from the Kieran Keane attempts to coach or change what they were trying to do. Yeah. But it's quite a shock for a guy. I think in Irish rugby, I'm not sure if it's a first. Is it possibly a first? A guy gets sacked. I don't know of a guy getting sacked within 1 year of a 3-year deal. Yeah. And
Matt O'Connor was 2, is the most recent example.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Eddie, I might put the same question to you. I don't know, did you see Connacht generally at their best or at their worst? But certainly you'd forgive the 8,000 fans on Saturday for walking away after the Leinster game thinking maybe things are finally starting to click a little bit, and the TV audience likewise. What were you seeing?
I think I'd agree with Andy. I think there was times they played very well and there was times they played very poorly. They looked like they were trying to find a balance to their game. And I think definitely Kieran Keane was taking a different approach than Pat Lam. And as I said, Pat Lam took a while to get his kind of house in order. So I think Connacht looked like they were in the process of trying to play differently than they had before, which is fine. That's Kieran Keane should not be expected to come in and get Connacht to replicate what Pat Lam did. That's just that's how it happens. And then on Saturday, obviously given Leinster a good shellacking, you'd think that everything was fine, but obviously this decision was made before Saturday. This didn't happen since Saturday. Today's Monday. There was obviously something going on in the background. It's hard to imagine that Kieran Keane didn't know anything about this, and then he woke up this morning and he got a phone call or something. That doesn't make any sense, particularly on the face of it. Things clicked pretty well last Saturday for them. Now you'd have to put into the fact that Leinster were pretty brutal as well. But things look like if you were finishing off the season on a bit of a high, not after everything going to plan, it was the perfect finish for the season. Everyone, was leaving the sports ground on Saturday evening pretty happy, or that Connacht had put together a big performance, and you would have been thinking, well, more of the same next year. So that's the shock part of it, But I would presume that this decision was made before the weekend. Now, whether maybe they hadn't communicated with Kieran Keane, but the decision was certainly hardly made in the last 24 hours.
No, I wouldn't think so. I appreciate you both speculating in the dark a touch, so we might pause it there and we'll see what Kieran Keane and what Connacht have to say about the situation. Brendan Fanning just breaking that story in the last hour or so, and he said a Connacht spokesman didn't comment when he was asked about the departure of Keane from the sports ground. So we'll wait and see how they explain it, or the rationale, if it's ever given. One of the reasons it was such a happy occasion, Andy, is that John Muldoon bid farewell. 47 points to 10. He kicked the final conversion of the game and then apologised promptly afterwards if Leinster were upset by that, because I think some of them charged him down. Maybe they didn't like that touch at the end, but you can understand it in the circumstances. You've played with him at Connacht. You have a feel for this guy. 327 games. I was thinking about it over the weekend. The vast majority of us have not seen the vast majority of his games for Connacht because they were not always the most fashionable ones.
No, I think what he said in the post-match interview is a great summary of who he is as a person. While it's probably, I would say it's the most self-indulgent thing he's done in a 10-year career, and he probably did it, he was probably pushed into it to take the kick, and he immediately apologised because he has the respect of all his peers, and I think at no stage did he want to discredit the effort Leinster had put in against Connacht on the day, and I think that just shows a humility in how he operates. I played in games with him. We went 5-0 up in a European game against London Irish, and we lost 75-5. And the following week, we went out to play Cardiff in another European Challenge game away in Cardiff, and it was 58-0. So we shipped 133 points in 2 weeks. We scored 5. And he was a guy who was really holding whatever fabric was there at that stage of the group. He was holding it together. Whether it was because he was a local guy who was belligerent, and who wasn't paying attention to the fact how bad we were in those particular periods, or whether it was just raw passion, or whether it was stupidity, or any of the above, he was relentless about his work rate. It was always, he would never blame people in the Connacht setup. Like Connacht, we forget, under Michael Bradley and Eric, effectively were the worst team in Europe for 7 years running, because the Italians weren't considered. So Connacht were finishing bottom of the league every single year, but that was taken as, okay, well look, they're the whipping boys and they are what they are. And what would have happened was, every year we'd have a run of 1 or 2 games in isolation where we beat a big side, and that was enough back then. But Mull was a guy who was central to, say, a new gym getting put in, or was central to changing the structure of the week to do additional work on skills, or who might grab 1 or 2 young lads and bring them down fishing. They go fishing for mackerel, and then they cook it in his kitchen, and the lads on the new guys in the squad would eat in his house. Like that kind of guy in a squad situation where you're constantly losing, I think is incredible. So it's one of the great sporting stories, I think, to see Connacht turn that around and go win a Pro 14 in the manner in which they did, in fully deserving playing positive rugby and beating Leinster over in Edinburgh on that famous day for Connacht rugby. But he is the absolute flagship of all their greatest stories and success.
Yeah, remarkable career and achievement, and you, like everybody, straight away has gone to what he's like, not just on the pitch but off the pitch. That's been the common response. Eddie, I don't know, did you ever have him up in camp? Because I asked that because I saw him do an interview pre the Leinster game as he was beginning to say goodbye. And funny, he said in hindsight he went up to Irish camp with a massive inferiority complex, wondering if he should be there at all.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. He might have been in some of the extended squads. But as Andy said there, like, there were times when Connacht were not really delivering week on week, and if they were getting hidings. That didn't help fellas' share value when the Province are getting a whipping like that. But I think, just to back up what Andy said there, like, he's a one club guy, which is very rare and going to be even rarer in the modern game. But there must have been plenty of times where he thought of getting out of Connacht, because there were long days. Like, there was this famous run under Eric where they didn't win a game for a few months, and it was tough on Eric, like, who again wore his heart in his sleeve as a Connacht man. But John Muldoon is a Connacht man through and through. Like, it runs in his DNA. So he must have a number of times thought, God, life could be a lot easier if I could get out of here and get to another club where we win more regularly. And all the pressure isn't on him. He was the talisman right through it. He was the guy that everybody looked at, as Andy said, to hold the thing together. And you have to take your hat off to him in huge respect that he just dug in and he dug in and he dug in. And so when they lifted the Pro 12 trophy that time, there was never a more fitting guy to lift a trophy, in my view, because he had really put in his time. And I just think it's a great time for him to go, because you couldn't ask any more of him. And I'm delighted that he's going into coaching. I think it's great, and I think it's a matter of time before he's come back and he'll be in the sports ground again with a tracksuit on him, So, he's just the kind of guy. I suppose every team needs one of those guys, and if you're lucky to find a homegrown guy like that, it's extra, and he's definitely the real deal.
Yeah, no, congratulations to him. We'll get him on the show at some stage. He did joke as well that the IRFU will be able to find out if he's any good or if he's crap at coaching without having to spend any money on him. So, humility to the end. So Ulster then have come. Like, the Ulster thing is strange. Now it's on the lower spectrum of strange things happening in Ulster over the last while. But they said a while back they couldn't announce their new coach. Just a week ago they said it, and then suddenly we get the news that it's former Connacht player and assistant coach Dan McFarland. So. He's 46 now. McFarland was obviously at Connacht for 15 odd years, 6 as a prop, 9 as an assistant coach, and has since gone in at Glasgow and now Scottish assistant coach. It seems, according to the Scottish Rugby Federation, he will stay on with Scotland in some kind of part-time role. I suppose it is international management until January 2019, and Ulster say rather, he'll be very much in place for pre-season with Ulster. So again, Andy, you'd know Dan McFarland. Tell us about him.
He, I played against him a couple of times. I never played with him. Very physical guy, very big into his scrummaging. So when he made the transition from Connacht into coaching, it was initially as a specialist scrum coach, which then evolved into a forwards coach, and then the kind of scrum line out. He worked closely with Eric Elwood, and they won an under-20s Grand Slam. I can't remember the year, but it would have been around 06, 07, something like that. And he, in what seems to be favoured a lot by players, is he's detail-driven. I think modern players really dig this. They're like, the guy goes into 6 hours of video analysis, and it seems to be a badge of honour in the coaching world. The longer you spend in the video analysis room, and the more detailed and the more laminated playbooks you've got, the better. So he's certainly not shy of that kind of stuff. I think it's an interesting appointment. A couple of things struck me. One, he's very detail oriented, as I experienced, but he also then went and worked outside of Ireland. I have no doubt, would have learned from the likes of Gregor Townsend and Vern Cotter through the Scottish system, different styles of coaching, and certainly with Gregor Townsend, a very different and kind of original coaching mind out there, and I've no doubt some of that would have rubbed off on Dan. So ultimately, I think it's an interesting appointment. You never know. You take the look at Kieran Keane, and you just never know. But I think it could be smart. It could have been handled smarter by Ulster. I mean, I wasn't great at negotiating. I had an agent who was egotistical and a bit of a dickhead, really. When it came down to negotiations, he would be very much, not saying the right thing. And I think Ulster, by coming out and saying he's our number one choice while he's still under contract with Scotland, in your book, point number 101 of contract negotiations, if a guy's still under contract and you're publicly saying he's your number one choice, the Scottish Rugby Union are rubbing their hands going, if he's number one, buy him out. So it's going to cost them a lot of money. I mean, I do feel sorry. They're probably very keen to make a big announcement and appear that the walls are no longer closing in up there. Here's some positive news. We've got our number one, but he's still under contract also. So I'm not sure they handled it that well. But I think ultimately could be an interesting and good appointment.
Okay. I guess you never know how it's going to work out, Eddie, when you take a promising assistant and throw him into the big job. And it's fair to say this Ulster job at this point in time comes with its fair share of complications. And as well, actually, after Thomond Park at the weekend, Champions Cup rugby is not assured. That's going to be decided. Well, it's complicated. If Leinster win a Champions Cup and all the Challenge Cup semi-finalists qualify for the Champions Cup on merit, then Ulster may sneak through. But realistically, it may well take a playoff match effectively against Ospreys to get them into Champions Cup action next year. So there's all of that floating around. It's a big job for him. Do you know much about him?
No, I don't actually. I've never met him or never worked with him. Would have been involved with Connacht when I was coaching with Ireland. So it's an interesting appointment, as Andy says, for me for a number of reasons. One is, look, Ulster, it's been a horrendous year for Ulster, but Ulster have been in a spiral of decline for the last 6 years, if you step back from it. They've got to the Heineken Cup final in 2012, lost to a fantastic Leinster team. Then 13 and 14, they made the quarterfinals. And then 15, 16, 17, 18, they haven't even got to the quarterfinals. And now we are looking at the potential they may not even make the European Champions Cup next year. There's a chance they might make it.
Yeah.
So this is not something that's happened overnight. It's something that's been going on for a while. And Ulster have been through now. They're looking at that third coach in as many years. So it's not a good situation. So it needs somebody to go in and really rewire the whole thing and get it back up and running again, because we all know the potential's there and they've invested in their assets. They have a fantastic stadium and everything that goes with that. So the question here is, you would think, and I don't know Dan at all, and I've never worked with him, but somebody of his ilk who's not an experienced head coach, it's his first head coaching position, to be dropped into the deep end there is a big call by Ulster. And I'm sure they've done their due diligence and their homework and they're happy with the decision they're making. But he's going to be under immense pressure immediately, and he's never been in that head coaching position. And You know, being an assistant coach is like juggling 3 or 4 balls. Being a head coach is like juggling 10 balls. And it's suddenly a different world. So that's going to be his biggest challenge for him, is that adjustment into the head coaching role. But it's an adjustment in an organisation that has been struggling and declining over the last number of years, gradually. So he's really got his hands full. And the problem Ulster have is, if for some reason Dan doesn't work out, and it might even be his fault, maybe just wrong place, wrong time, and we all hope it does work out, obviously, because it's so important for Ulster.
Yeah.
Like, Ulster are running out of chances here. You know, their own supporters are beside themselves. So it's a pretty massive call for them to take Dan and put him in there on the basis that they can't know for sure that he's cut out to be a head coach. They must feel they feel they're right. But it's a massive step up from being an assistant to being a head coach. It's just a different ballgame. And you just hope they got it right. But that's the thing that I would say is probably the biggest challenge for him, is taking on the role of a head coach in an organisation that has been in decline. It's not just one job. It's not just getting himself sorted and being a good head coach. He's now got to figure out how to rewire a whole organisation that has been struggling pretty much from the academy up.
The clock's against us, so we might just touch on 1 or 2 stories very quickly. Maxime Machineau is going to miss the Champions Cup final, which is a huge blow for Racing and good news for Leinster, it's worth a mention. And Gerben Grobler is leaving Munster after 1 season. That's actually one I might chat to the lads about on Wednesday and tease out lessons from that, or a general feeling on that. The other one I had jotted down was the Sunday Independent yesterday. On the front page, their story was that Joe Schmidt is high up on the list of potential candidates that the RFU has drawn up should they need to replace Eddie Jones after the World Cup. So they're drawing up a contingency plan, and it seems Joe Schmidt is right up there on the list. And the RFU Chief Executive, Steve Brown, has said there's no gentleman's agreement between the home unions not to go after other coaches. And like I guess we talk about Schmidt, and God, we don't want to lose him anytime soon. But it's a fait accompli. He would go back to New Zealand. But then you think, man, if he was offered the England job, that's a huge job to get in World Rugby, Eddie. That's a tough job to say no to, depending what he might be offered in New Zealand, as much as he's an Irish citizen and he's loved his time here.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's his career. He's got to step back and look at his career and say, look, this is my coaching career. Where do I want to go next? And you've got to take sentiment out of it, you know. I think it might be just speculation from the RFU. I would have thought Joe Schmidt would see his trajectory more moving into the All Blacks job. You know, to me, and being a New Zealander and having expressed the wish to go back home to New Zealand at some point, and Steve Hansen stepping down, you know, there's a lot of things that will be in his favour. And look, the guy's record has been extraordinary with Ireland, so he would fit the bill for New Zealand as much as anything else. So I'm kind of surprised that England are throwing that out there. Eddie Jones certainly has a contract extension for 2 years after the World Cup, but I would say that's possibly depending on him winning the World Cup, you know, because that's where they've been stating their case that they want to do that. So they are probably drawing up, you know, fallback positions on that. But I would thought Joe Schmidt certainly would be on the top of their list, but whether they're on the top of his list is another question.
Yeah, Andy, I won't lie, it would be very upsetting if Joe Schmidt went and managed England.
Yeah, the RFU have more money than everyone else.
Yeah, it's a hell of a job.
Kind of grim
it's
reality.
Such a huge job.
There is a grim reality to that. I don't. It's also probably, you know, coaching England in any sport is pretty thankless. You know, across, this is going on 30 years across 4 different sports we might be familiar with. It's rarely a position where the person is celebrated. Stuart Lancaster had basically 3 3/4 very successful years, including a demolition of the All Blacks, and got it wrong with the Sam Burgess debacle, and then some selection issues in that World Cup, and he was sacked unceremoniously. He was
miserable
time for Stuart, and I would have thought if it's ever an issue, Joe could probably pick up the phone and give him a ring and say, how bad is this? But I think I would agree with Eddie. I'd say Joe himself sees his trajectory from huge success with Ireland, and maybe I'd say certainly he sees himself competing with Ireland for a World Cup title, not a quarter-final. And on the back of that, maybe a trip back down under.
Yeah. Well, if the RFU are drawing up contingency plans for post-2019, then one presumes David Nucifor is doing something similar. So that's something we'll talk about again. Lads, we'll leave it there. Eddie, thanks a million.
Thanks, Joe.
And Andy, thanks for coming to the studio. There's plenty of texts in. Kieran Keane says John and Limerick kept a very low profile at the end of the match. He didn't come out to greet Muldoon and the players. I suspect he knew what was on the cards. Yeah, maybe that makes sense now. And a reminder, every week we will be rewarding your best rugby comments across the show. Text us, tweet, whatever you want. Give us your best shot. And each Friday, the lads choose a Heineken Star Comment of the Week, where you're in the hat to win some great prizes like match tickets, roadshow tickets, Heineken and more. We are going to take a very short break. We'll check in with Kevin Kilban, who is live after 9 with a very special football show. Pat Nevin and Ray Houghton on the way. And also, before we go, we'll be over to Glasgow and talk about this Stephen Gerrard to Rangers situation as well.
Off the ball on News Talk.
The Moncrief Show is on the road again, and this time we're in Tullamore. Join us on May the 4th when we'll be broadcasting Movies and Booze live from the Bridge House Hotel in the heart of Tullamore. Kick off the bank holiday weekend as we pop corks, eat good food, talk movies and drink the tastiest booze. Show what else would you want to do of a Friday. To be part of the audience, just go to newstalk.com/events and follow the link.
Movies and Booze on Moncrief.
Proudly sponsored by Carry Out Off Licence.
Every Friday on News Talk.
Hi, Kevin O'Brien here of Leinster Lightning and the Irish cricket team.
And I'm Laura Delaney, captain of the Irish women's cricket team.
Cricket is the perfect summer sport where new players are always welcome.
Cricket is one of the fastest growing sports in Ireland.
And with 42 clubs in Leinster, there's one near you.
And they're all on the Cricket Leinster website, cricketleinster.ie.
Cricket Leinster, you're welcome.
What you need is a real ham. Brady family ham. A ham that's all ham. A 100% Irish ham. Irish. Not some fly-by-night who flew in last night.
Hola, senor.
Who think they can wile us with their overseas charms.
I think you Irish boys are so cute.
Well, no. So keep your talk down, lads, and your wits about you at that chill cabinet. And look for the ham less travelled. Brady family ham. Always 100% Irish. Always low food miles.
If you don't like receiving rewards for doing absolutely nothing, then you definitely shouldn't download the 3+ app. It's our loyalty program that gives all 3 customers exclusive rewards, competitions and offers daily. So if you'd like more great food, adventures, retail therapy, music and fun for less just for being on 3, then you definitely should download the 3+ app today. 3. Make it count. Data charges may apply to app download. 3 customers aged 16+. Registration necessary. See 3.ie/+.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Now, welcome back, and don't forget we have a very exciting football show on the way after 9 o'clock. Kevin Kilban is hosting from the Backpage Pub in Fisborough. He's nervous, he's excited, he's standing by. Hello, Kevin.
Hi, Joe. Yeah, nerves is probably right. I think that's what it is, yeah. Nerves, excitement, I don't know. I'll get more excited when I see Ray Houghton and Pat Nevin, who are our guests this evening. I think that's sort of the tipping point for me.
I'm jealous you get to spend some time with Big P Nevin. I mean, I love Ray Houghton as well, but Pat Nevin is a favourite here. He
is, yeah. Patrick, Kevin, Francis, Michael Nevin, Joe, as you know, Irish roots, Irish heart. So yeah, we'll have a little chat to him about that later on. But Pat, yeah, good company. So I'm looking forward to speaking to them both, actually. So hosting an outside broadcast, live audience in a rowdy pub. What are we nervous about here? Is it the opener? It's how times have changed, Joe, isn't it? That's what it is. I remember 4 or 5 years ago when you were ringing me up, Kev, come on, where can you be? You go on, your taxi's picking you up at what time and things like that. You give me loads of hassle because I'm not on time. Yeah. Now all of a sudden it's me that's got to be trying to pull the strings a little bit tonight. So that makes it a little bit more nerve-wracking. I remember it well. Kev, you want how much? Come on. Come off it. Free. Yeah, I was always free, Joe. You took advantage of me. Does that include VAT? Oh my God. So no, we're looking forward to this. I mean, that'll be really nice. Between 9 and 10. No, it'll be great. It'll be great, and it gives us an excuse as well, Joe. As you know, it's almost 30 years since that goal in Euro 88. So it gives us an excuse to talk about that as well, of course. Okay. Actually, do you know what? I'll be interested in both their thoughts. We'll be doing a piece later on in the show, a short enough piece, but definitely be interested in both their thoughts on Stephen Gerrard and Rangers and the Old Firm situation. Yeah, well, I'll ask him that. Well, to be honest with you, Joe, I was trying to speak to you today and you're actually blanking me a little bit when I wanted to chat to you and get a little bit of advice. But you're all about you these days. So anyway, that's for another day, isn't it?
My advice to you is don't be yourself. Other than that, you're absolutely spot on. You'll fly. Come here, before we let you go then, and people will be getting this between 9 and 10. You were at Old Trafford yesterday. We had the game live. It really wasn't a very good game. You might sum things up for us. Any standout bits from the game?
Well, it was, Joe. It was. You watched it yourself. It was fairly dreadful. When I'd seen the United team, and I thought United, maybe you could have played Martial, I suppose, and Rashford to make it a little bit more exciting. But there was a lot of attacking talent in United's side. But quickly, the game turned into a bit of a grind, a bit of a rut. And considering it was Arsene Wenger's last game at Old Trafford, and there was so much hype surrounding that Wenger is actually, of course, we know, going at the end of the season. You're expecting a little bit more fireworks. You're expecting a bit more from it, but it just never materialised. It never happened. It was a pretty poor showing, I think. And Arsenal, as we know, they've got their eyes firmly on Thursday night for that Atletico Madrid game, and that was basically where their mind was. So it was a poor end, actually. This wasn't really enjoyable when you consider the amount of or the rivalry that's been between Man United and Arsenal over the years. It certainly didn't live up to those old showings that we maybe saw 10 or 15 years ago.
No, that's for sure. Even from the off with the presentation to Wenger, I mean, it was actually genuinely touching in some respects to see Ferguson and Wenger there almost burying the hatchet. Obviously, they had their failings when the rivalry was at its height, but you kind of felt there was a genuine sort of warmth there between the two, and Ferguson really did want to acknowledge Wenger's contribution, and then Mourinho was slightly unsure. You could see that he probably realised Wenger and him aren't best buds, and Ferguson kind of called him over. But it almost added to that testimonial feel.
It did. I think that's fair to say. I think Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger fully realised that what both their teams were doing and going up against each other in these key battles, it helped them progress. It strived them to greater things, and that was ultimately what you take from it. It was a nice moment. It wasn't. I think there was a great reception from the Man United supporters at Old Trafford as Arsene Wenger walked up the touchline. Even when he received his award from Alex Ferguson, it was really nice. I'm with you where Jose Mourinho was kind of like the odd one out, I suppose, in that one. It was a little bit uncomfortable, but he paid his respects. Quite rightly paid his respects, and of course, three greats, really, of Premier League football, I suppose, there. But I think that was the thing. Once the game did start, maybe you touched on it there, that testimonial feel. It was mundane. It was a low-key affair. There was no real competitiveness in the game. And it was only maybe when Fellaini come on and caused a bit of madness, like he does, that kind of the game got a bit of spark later on. But other than that, there was nothing really in it throughout. Yeah.
What a slightly grim thought for Manchester United fans, that with all the talent on show and with Martial potentially leaving the club, I mean, it just seems crazy to just let talent like that go and potential like that go. That actually, with all the ability and pace in the team, that it's when Fellaini comes on that things start to almost pick up a notch or two.
Yeah, it is. It is crazy to see it, to think that as well, because it's not as if Arsenal at times as well yesterday weren't open. There was chances for United to go and hurt them on the counter-attack in particular, and I think Arsenal were playing a fairly high line, so it's not as if there was a team that United were playing against that was denying them space in behind. That teams do struggle with that. Any side's going to struggle if you denied space in behind them. It wasn't like that. It was just a low-key affair, as you say. And Martial came on. He made a difference later on when he come on. He tried to have an impact.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. When you're at the game, as a final point, and we'll wrap this up. When you're at the game and you're there in the stadium and you're watching things unfold, when Manchester United get the ball, is there the semblance of a plan? Is there movement happening off the ball? Are they kind of working as a unit when it comes to attack? Because when you watch on TV, so often it just seems like the whole thing is stagnant, like the whole pitch is stagnant.
Yeah, you know what? You've made a good point. I maybe touched on it a couple of times on commentary yesterday. There was chances in the match yesterday, should I say, and even across the course of this season, when United win the ball back, quick areas, there's a chance to actually turn the opposition, get Lukaku into the game early, get one of your key players, whether that be Rashford, Sanchez, Martial, whoever it would be, there's a chance to get them in the game, pass forward quickly. But I don't know, in watching it yesterday again, I'm using, I'm using Chris Smalling, for instance. Chris Smalling steps in from the back, he steps into midfield and he's looking to play it to one of his teammates, passing forward or passing sideways, whatever he's doing. You can see in his body language and what he does, he quickly just wants to get back into shape. He doesn't want to get any sort of telling off from Mourinho. It's been drilled into them onto the training ground. You vacate your position, you get back into that position as quickly as possible. It doesn't create free-flowing football. It doesn't create sort of excitement like you'll see some of the other better sides. It's almost as if the mindset of every player, whether that's a midfield player, if you've stepped out of position, if you revert back to the Cup semi last week against Spurs, where he was screaming at Herrera and Pogba to sit, just stay in position, stay where you are. The result will come off the back of that. Yes, it works, but it's not exciting football to watch because of that. And that's maybe one of the things that's in the mindset of every one of the United players now, I suppose.
Okay, very interesting. Right, listen, I will let you go and get ready. So between 9 and 10, we'll play this out. It's you and Ray Houghton and Pat Nevin in Phibsborough. The Back Page pub in Phibsborough.
The Back Page in Phibsborough, yeah.
Okay, great stuff. Kev, enjoy it. Have a good one.
Cheers, Joe. Thanks, mate.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
It's the challenge of a lifetime. How to make business meetings more interesting. Guess what? We met it at the Red Cow Moran Hotel. Our 14 new meeting rooms stand out from the crowd. We've designed luxurious, innovative spaces to cultivate creativity and defy boredom. From now on, meetings will never be the same again. Stand out from the crowd at redcowmoranhotel.com.
Last August, a sellout crowd cheered them to a great win at the Aviva. Now Liverpool FC return to Dublin to take on a skillful Napoli side on Saturday, August the 4th. Watch Jurgen Klopp's first team as they continue their pre-season tour with an international friendly against Serie A contenders Napoli. Tickets on sale now at ticketmaster.ie. Booking fee applies. Liverpool versus Napoli, Saturday, August 4th at the Aviva. Don't miss out.
Isn't it always the way? When your toddler learns to flush things down the toilet, your keys will be the first victim. And that's when 123.ie steps in. Our comprehensive car insurance has you covered when your keys are given an unexpected tour of your pipes. Simply put, we'll replace them as soon as possible. Key replacement is now free with new comprehensive car insurance. Buying online saves you 10%. 123.ie. Simple is smarter. Acceptance criteria, T's and C's apply. 123 Money Limited Trading as 123.ie is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. RSA Insurance Ireland Act provides 123.ie car insurance. Free key care is a limited offer with a cover limit of €1,500.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
Now, you're very welcome back. So before we get over to Kev and Ray and Pat Nevin, I want to give you a chance to go to Las Vegas, no less. We have teamed up with British Airways to give one lucky listener the chance to experience the sights and sounds of Vegas, which is everything you could possibly need on a holiday: musicals, family entertainment, spas, golf and canyon walks. And there are now more ways than ever to fly to Las Vegas from Dublin, with British Airways offering connections at Gatwick and Heathrow, and looking after all your baggage, in-flight and entertainment and dining needs. So our overall prize winner features a fabulous trip for two, return flights, 5 nights in the 5-star Venetian Hotel and €1,000 spending money. So not bad at all. And everyone who enters this week will be put in the overall draw. But tonight's winner will also bag 2 tickets to see Liam Gallagher live in concert. So to enter, just identify your mystery voice. Asked about the thought of spending his summer watching football in Russia.
I'm so happy, believe me. I'm so happy. Happy New Year.
If you know how that is, text the word Vegas, your answer, and name to 53106. We'll draw tonight's winner at the end of the show, and it's Viva Las Vegas with thanks to British Airways. Now, we are turning to the very latest on Stephen Gerrard. Gerrard, it seems going to Ibrox. We've got Robert Grieve on the line, chief football writer with the Scottish Sun. Evening, Robert.
Good evening, how are you?
Very well, thanks a million for joining us. I'm sure a very busy time there. So the latest word we have is that Gerrard, or certainly his representatives, were in Glasgow today for more discussions, and Rangers are very confident of getting him on a 4-year deal. Is that about right?
Yeah, well, there has been ongoing talks today. You're right with that. I don't think Gerrard himself was in Glasgow. But yeah, there's been ongoing talks, ongoing discussions, and it now seems that the ball's firmly in Stephen Gerrard's court. I don't think the deal's done yet. I think there are still things to be ironed out and some discussions to take place before he agrees to take the job at Ibrox. But yeah, I think speaking to people at Ibrox, people at Rangers, they are pretty confident they can get this over the line.
I saw Danny Murphy talking this afternoon, and presumably he's got some links with Gerrard one way or another. He said the thing is, I think he's probably needing more reassurances regarding what they can give him. So what is the financial situation at Rangers? If we take a potted history post-administration in 2012, They obviously had to work themselves up from the 3rd division, which they did relatively quickly. It wasn't without some managerial changes and some drama, and they've been back in the SPL since 2016. But it's not like they're posting profits.
No, very, very much not. You're absolutely correct. I mean, I see these financial issues at the club, obviously in the last few years. I mean, there's stacks of season ticket money coming in, which I think the club are going to have to rely on to kind of take things forward, and that's probably one of the crux of the problem at the minute. But you're absolutely right. Steven Gerrard is making demands or making it clear that if he is to take the job, then he has to be back financially. There's no point in Steven Gerrard taking the Rangers job, coming to Scottish football and trying and attempting to take on Brendan Rodgers, a manager he knows well, unless he's got a significant war chest to make a good go of it. I mean, obviously he's got contacts in English football. He's contacts at Liverpool, clearly, and I'm pretty sure that he would have a number of young players that he's worked with at Liverpool, young players he knows that he could bring potentially to Scottish football. But it's going to take more than that if he's going to take the Rangers job, and as I say, have a go at taking on Celtic. Then it's going to need some serious money to do that. So I think there's no doubt that that's something he's talking to just now when he's having the negotiations with Rangers in terms of how much muscle he's going to have to go into the transfer market, how much muscle he's going to have to actually spend on wages to get some players in, because I think we all saw at Celtic Park yesterday there's a gulf between the clubs at the minute. I think most people, even with Rangers, would accept that. So yeah, there's going to be needed some real money to make a difference there.
Well, if they don't accept it, then he's headed for more trouble than he realises. The quick reading I was doing suggested a loss of 1.1 million sterling this year and soft loans of just shy of 18 million. So you do the quick maths there, and I'm wondering how they're going to muster up this war chest he might need.
Yeah, well, obviously Dave King, the focus is on him as chairman, as owner of the club. He's obviously got some issues of himself to be dealing with in terms of the history that he's had in recent years in terms of kind of taking over the club. But yeah, I mean, they're going to have to step up. There's been talk over the last few months of people being on the sidelines, maybe potentially coming in, but that's always been there. That's always been the chat, and it's not materialised. But yeah, the focus will be Dave King to come up with the money. The Rangers fans can only do so much over the course of the last few years. The way they've stuck by the club, I think, has been remarkable in terms of buying season tickets. But I think there has to come a time when they have to think twice about that and whether they will pay their money like they have been doing in recent years. If they're going to bring in a manager like Steven Gerrard, he's going to need that money. But as I say, the Rangers fans, I think, are quite rightly asking whether this is going to be an appointment that's going to work. Everyone knows Steven Gerrard is a football player, hugely respected in world football, but he's obviously a rookie in terms of management. So I think albeit there will be Rangers fans, a lot of Rangers fans who will be excited by the prospect of Steven Gerrard taking charge of the club. There will be others, plenty of them, who will be questioning the inexperience of appointing Gerrard and the kind of danger that might bring.
Yeah, I guess it's a risk all round, really. And when you're a player of Gerrard's stock and profile, you tend to get that first job, and then judgments are made very, very quickly. So it's a risk all round, really. And if he goes into the club and there's no money there, and he spends 2 or 3 years being humiliated in the fashion that we saw yesterday, then it really damages his credibility hugely. I mean, maybe he sticks at Liverpool and he jumps a few rungs in the ladder and gets the managerial job there down the line. So there's all of these things swirling around. And so, I mean, it's interesting you talk about the Rangers fans there, and they've been very loyal to the club. What's it been like being a Rangers supporter over the last 2 or 3 years? Is there a general sense of hope and they got back into the SPL and that they're building? Or is there almost a forlorn feeling that they're a billion miles behind Celtic and that gap ain't going to be closed anytime soon? Yeah, I think there's an absolute realisation now that the gap is there. I think they've been taken to the end of their tether with the whole situation. I don't think you can blame any of the Rangers fans for that. They turn up in huge numbers every week, as I say. But there has to work both ways. They have to see some progress off the park and on the park if they're going to keep doing that. I mean, 50,000 people, I'm sure, will be Ibrox, or 40 to 50,000 people will be Ibrox on Saturday when they play Kilmarnock. But as I say, when it gets to the renewal of season tickets, which is crucial to Rangers, then the club can't keep asking the fans to dig into their pockets without giving them something back. If that's Steven Gerrard, as I say, there will be people who buy into that. But the crucial thing is whether Steven Gerrard will be backed and whether he's able to do the turnaround that's demanded there. Because, as you said,
there's a gulf in glass between the two squads at Rangers and Celtic right now. Major surgery needs to be done.
I wonder cynically if season tickets are as important financially as you're suggesting here, then what better way than to maybe provoke people to get their season tickets in early for next season than to get in a name like Steven Gerrard? I mean, if you're sitting around, if me and you in a different life are sitting around the Rangers boardroom, Rob, then we're all saying, well, that's a good idea. That almost ensures season tickets again for next year if we get Gerrard in. And hey, it's a bonus if he does a great job.
Yeah, but it has to work. There's no doubt. I mean, they can make any appointment that gets fans excited. It has to work. It only has to
work.
I know what you're saying. If they have the season ticket money's already been bought and paid for, then yeah, sure. But I don't think that's the motives behind this. I do think that obviously they have to get the fans on side clearly. But I think they're at a situation now, Rangers, where they're trying to think outside the box. I think you can give them a certain amount of credit for that. But I don't think there's any doubt either that they need experience. So it's a very difficult one. I think for every Rangers fan that you find will be excited by this prospect, I think there's no doubt it would raise the profile of Scottish football in the same way that when Brendan Rodgers arrived at Celtic it did. But it has to work. He has to be a good manager, because there's no point in bringing in Steven Gerrard and it not to work, because I think that the Rangers fans would very quickly turn off from that.
Can you give us a sense, given that you're following it week in, week out over the last number of years, obviously at this stage, how impressed are you with the job that Rodgers has done? Because it's very quickly dismissed, I think, outside of Scotland. Yeah,
I mean, there's no getting away from it. It's been a sensational job since he went to Glasgow. It was a fantastic appointment from Celtic. It was a brave appointment. They pay good money to get Brendan Rodgers here, but he's bought into the whole thing. He's taken the job and got into it wholeheartedly with every job that comes up, even since Arsene Wenger decided or announced that he was leaving the Arsenal job, and Brendan Rodgers was one of the names linked. But I noticed today that he kind of distanced himself from that. There's no doubt whatsoever that he's happy here. His family, he's a new wife who loves living in Scotland, and we speak to Brendan Rodgers every week, and there's no doubt he enjoys the position. But yeah, you can't underplay the job that he's done. He won the treble last year, and for my money, he'll win the treble again this year, which is unprecedented. So back-to-back trebles doesn't happen. It's never happened before. So I think if he does that, I think you absolutely can't criticise the job that Brendan Rodgers has done. It's been sensational.
For sure, but and by the same token, and I totally accept what you've just said, but how legitimate are the criticisms that, well, who's he beating or what's he beating exactly in terms of opposition?
You're always going to get that, no matter who's in charge of the clubs in Scotland. And Martin O'Neill was at Celtic, there was criticism as well that it's a two-horse race, and Brendan Rodgers right now is facing the criticism that it's a one-horse race. That just goes with the territory. He can't do anything about that. Last season.
Is it legitimate to say, Rob? Is it legitimate that it basically is a one-horse race at the moment?
You could absolutely argue that. Yeah, you could argue that. But Brendan Rodgers is always Celtic managers, Rangers, or previously Rangers managers, are always going to be judged in European success as well. So to get Celtic into the Champions League for the second year running was a fantastic achievement. You can't get away from that either. So for all the Celtic are kind of wiping the boards domestically, in the European stage, Celtic have also done fantastically well as well. So people will always be critical. People will always point to the standard of Scottish football, but we can't get away from that. I think if you're asking me whether Brendan Rodgers has done a fantastic job, then I don't think there's any doubt about that. If you're asking me whether he's capable, or if he will go to a bigger job or a bigger league, maybe not necessarily a bigger job, but a bigger league in the future, then absolutely certainty. It will happen. It's just a matter of time.
I presume, as a final point, the general hope is that Steven Gerrard does go to Rangers and that he does re-establish them, even as maybe miraculous as that might be over the next year or two, as real proper challengers for Celtic. Because we grew up in a time where when you heard the Celtic result over here, your first question was, how did Rangers get on? And it was a fantastic rivalry. And it might have been a two-horse race, but it was a hell of a two-horse race. It was an absorbing two-horse race. And it certainly attracted a wider interest in Scottish football than it currently has. So I presume everybody's of mind that Scotland and Scottish football needs to get back to that point as quickly as possible. But even Celtic fans must, in some senses, it must be slightly hollow in comparison with previous generations.
I'm not sure you'd find a Celtic fan who says that, to be honest with you.
Really? I'm surprised there wouldn't be a certain hollowness.
Sorry, say that again?
I'm surprised there wouldn't be some degree of hollowness. I mean, I understand, look, winning is winning and it's great.
The Celtic fans are just enjoying the glory that they're having right now. But yeah, I take your point. There's absolutely no doubt. I mean, the result and performance in the golfing clash between the sides, which was evident at Celtic Park on Sunday, that isn't good for Scottish football. That doesn't paint our game in a particularly good light. Celtic fans will enjoy it, clearly, and Rangers fans won't. But we need our bigger clubs to be more competitive, and if that's Rangers, then so be it. But yeah, I don't think it paints our game in a particularly good light when one of our biggest club at the minute, Celtic, is thrashing our second biggest club, or certainly a club as big as Celtic, 5-0. That doesn't do anyone any good. But yeah, that's the way it is just now. And until Rangers they can get themselves back into a position where they can challenge, they just have to deal with it.
Yeah, okay. Interesting times. We'll see how the Gerrard talks continue. Robert Grieve, Chief Football Writer with the Scottish Sun. Thanks very much, Robert.
No worries. Thanks very much. Bye.
The News Talk app is News Talk in your pocket. Download it now.
From Grafton Street to Downton Grand, St Stephen's Green to the bright lights of the Strip, the GPO to Bellagio. There's now more ways you can fly to Las Vegas from Dublin with British Airways. Travel in style on new aircraft via Gatwick. Choose first or business class, premium or economy, and get fares with baggage, in-flight entertainment, food and drink included. Bet you're packing already? Book your trip to Las Vegas at your local travel agent or online at britishairways.com.
News Talk's Happily Hired, brought to you by Jobbio.
Jobbio is the place where millions of talented people find their dream job. Apply privately and directly to thousands of companies using one professional profile. Any German speakers listening today? You might be the perfect fit for an